And welcome into FFCK. That's Fantasy Football with Corey and Kyle. We are covering our misses for 2024, why we missed that call, and then what we think is going to happen for 2025 with that player. So right now, we're going to talk about Travis Kelce. I think we all have our theories, but we thought Kelce was going to have a good season and come back and bounce back. The 2023 season, he was kind of down. At the end of the season, he came back alive. We saw Travis Kelce back alive, so thought that would carry into 2024. And we got just a pretty much ho-hum kind of season. Kyle, what'd you think about it?
Yeah, it was absolute garbage. I don't know if, Taylor Swift consumed his essence and what was left of his youth or what, but
must have.
He played horrible. He had one pretty good stretch in weeks 8 through 10 where he was getting 20-plus points a game. And then he had that one in week 17 right before the playoffs. And I think he had a pretty good game in the playoffs too. But it's not the Kelce that people are drafting in the second and third round. When you're drafting a guy that high, you want him to be elite. He wasn't. He didn't get to 1,000 yards. He only had 4 touchdowns, and one of them was rushing. That's not – his bread and butter is red zone. So what was Mahomes doing in the red zone this year? They were running the ball. And so, Kelce struggled because that's where he gets a lot of his extra points at. We're used to him scoring 2 touchdowns, not 2 points, 2 touchdowns per week almost in the past. Yeah. And to be fair, it was a down year for tight ends across the board. I think there was one top 10 we were looking at earlier. In the top 12 tight ends, there was one that scored double-digit touchdowns, and that was Andrews, who had no yards. It was just touchdowns.
Yep.
So the fact that he had this rough of a year and still finished as the number 5 tight end on the season tells you exactly what kind of tight end season it was. But this is not the kind of output you expect from a guy, like you say, that you're investing that kind of draft capital into.
Yeah, I think his performance pretty much sums up how 2024 went, right? He was inconsistent. He was really down, but still somehow number 5 tight end on the season. Yep, that about sums it up. So your theory was Taylor Swift stole his youth. I have my own theory. So I'm going to go with that one. I think it's just getting the jab. It's just taking it out of him.
Instead of putting medicine in, they sucked his game
it's no coincidence that he was on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had 5 number 1 seasons in a row. Then he got the jab. So in 2021, he finished second. Woo! He must have not gotten that booster. For 2022, he finished first again. Actually had his best career season in fantasy. And then in 2023, man, too many boosters. Finished at 3. 2024, they just keep adding up.
When you hear the word booster, you think it's going to help.
Right, yeah. And so now he's doing commercials. Now he's finishing at number 5 with his lowest finish since 2016, his lowest amount of fantasy points put up. So, of course, we're kind of joking, guys, but at the same time, this guy's on a downward trajectory. And again, yeah, he's finishing top 5, but tight ends were down across the board. So you can't really look at that. It's his points output. And in 2022, he put up 316 fantasy points. And in 2023, he dropped 97 points down to 219. Still finished 3rd. But that's not where you're drafting this guy. Is for 100 points less. And then he dropped even further. He dropped another 25 this year. He has dropped off 125 points in a season in the last 2 seasons. That's a lot. And like you said, it's those touchdown counts. He's not getting those red zone looks. In fact, it looks like they're not looking his way a lot at all. Then you look over at Noah Gray, who had more touchdowns this year than Travis Kelce. That's crazy. Noah Gray had more touchdowns. Yeah. And so that is worrisome to me. I don't like that at all.
No,
In fact,
I don't
mean,
either.
Travis Kelce had 195 fantasy points. Noah Gray finished with 113.
Yeah. Gray, especially earlier on in the season when Kelce was struggling the most, was when Gray was kind of red hot. It kind of switched off towards the end of the season. Gray kind of quit producing. But it is worrisome for Kelce. And like you say, there's a little bit of offensive shift there as far as strategy goes too, because it's kind of like we talked about with Mahomes, right? You're not throwing the ball as much, you're running the ball more, especially down on the goal line, things like that. And he suffered as a result of it. Plus, yeah, he's 35. Like, he's losing a step, man. It's just, that's father time for you in a game of football.
Yep.
And so, especially being in the position he plays, does a lot of blocking and takes a lot of hits. Like, he's just losing a step. He's not that elite guy that we're used to seeing.
Yeah. Now, luckily, not luckily if you have him in Dynasty, but in redraft, you have other guys that are going to become available. You've got Bowers out there that is looking elite at a young age. LaPorta, elite, not in the greatest situation, having to share so much targets with so many other people on a run-first team as well.
I will say, in LaPorta's defense, because early in the season, I was in panic mode on LaPorta. I traded him in all my dynasties for McBride, which I'm happy with.
That was my next one on my list, yeah.
But he did start getting more targets and producing a lot more the second half of the season.
Agreed. So I picked him up for free off of waivers.
I think that first half of the season was a little bit of trying to figure out how Jameson fit in, and they could be run heavy. And so there was a lot of figuring that out. And then once they kind of get that figured out, that dynamic, the second half of the season, he was producing a lot more. Jameson.
Maybe we'll do a video on LaPorta at some point too, and see where that went, and Jameson Williams as well. So you've got some young up and comers who are going to be able to replace Kelce in your targets for tight end, and I think they're going to remain consistent. But I feel in 2025, Kelce's going to continue this downward trend. They're going to continue to try to run the ball more, especially when Pacheco's back healthy. I am not targeting Kelce early moving forward in fantasy.
No, he's clearly lost a step. He's on the decline. If you got him in Dynasty, try to sell him.
Whatever you can.
Try to sell him. Try to get if you can trade Kelce for like a Njoku or something along those lines, I would take that. Draft picks are great right now this time of year. If you can get a couple of draft picks or something for him, I would do that. But it's time to sell on Travis Kelce stock.
Yep. Pray for a great Super Bowl performance. Maybe he gets you a touchdown or two, and then sell.
Yep, 100%.